So this, yes, welcome. So I'm happy because I found out a way to make this be my podcast. So welcome to episode 2 of the Healers Collective podcast. It is live. It's this is what it's going to be. I'm using Substack, so I like to use all my things to share the things that I'm doing. I'm using Substack to be using Google Meet obviously to record the call, but I'm able to take this recording, give it to Substack. Substack simultaneously posts it to YouTube, and it has like a podcast area on Substack, and then I can also connect it to Spotify, so I can get the audio, strip the audio, and the audio will be on Substack too, on Spotify as a podcast. So it's all coming together. It's been a long time coming, and I'm grateful. And the conversation is super dialed in for body workers and healers. So again, Substack is the platform. If you're interested in, creating your own YouTube, creating your own podcast situation. Today's conversation, we want to talk about identity, strategic identity. And I've wrote a book where it's titled, It's All About Who. And in that book, I don't talk about like what you do or how you do it or when you do it and why you do it. Those things matter, but the real answer is who, right? So who are you? What's your identity? Who are you serving? Right? And then who are you becoming at the same time? So focusing on one of those questions of who are you serving? To be very clear on that, because then once you understand who you're serving and you get clear on that type of strategy, then you could market better and get into this space where you can really start speaking from that person. But you have to create that identity. If you don't create that identity of who that person is, you're gonna be chasing your tail. You're gonna be chasing just things and like I almost ideas of the person versus like naming that person out loud and like this is who I'm talking to. So in finding out for one who that person is, and then think about speaking from that person. Like what is that person's needs and wants? And a better part of that is what is their, for my notes, like who are they today? And who will they be tomorrow? Who do they want to be tomorrow? So, and let's just take it from just a straight bodywork sense, right? So, like the people you're working on, let's say you're working on athletes. Your athlete that's coming in today is maybe an injured athlete. So maybe they're in their recovery mode, like they just strained the hamstring, they just strained the quad, there's shoulder, just something. Who do they want to be tomorrow? They want to be playing again. So thinking about, again, this, and I kind of tied in from the conversation I did last week, where are you picking them up from and where are you bringing them to? Who are they today and who do they want to be tomorrow? That allows, and just picking at some of the, some Iris, I know your stuff, Jasmine, I know your stuff, Zave, I know your things are shifting, so I haven't been refreshed on your stuff, Zave. But Iris, I know we talked about people pleasing. So your audience today, they are people pleasers. Who they want to be tomorrow? People who they don't give us about people pleasing anymore. They've literally let that go. They are living in their authentic voice and authentic tone. For Jasmine, it's like you are working with, who are they today? Successful business owners, or just like elite, high achieving women, but maybe they're ignoring other parts of their life. Who do they want to be tomorrow? They want to be present in their home. They want to be present in their family. They don't want to only just be high achieving in the workplace, but they also want to be present and high achieving at home. Also, another question to ask, what characteristics define the future version of them? What characteristics define the future version of them? That is really going to get to another space where you can understand, like, okay, these characteristics are who they want to be. That way I could start talking about those things. So that way, as I talk about it more and more, I begin to attract them. They begin to show up. So for me, if I'm saying like, hey, healers and and body workers. I'm here to help you expand your brand. That's what this is. So if you are currently struggling with social media, let me help you understand social media. If you're struggling to find your voice, let me help you. If you feel like a slave to your table, let me help you get away from the table. If you're looking to get more clients, let me help you get, like, literally, let me take you from where you are and get you to where you want to go. But the characteristics of the person of the future version, and you guys have been working with me, Zabe knows this one, like, you got to become obsessed. If you're not obsessed with your client, if you're not obsessed with your audience, you're not obsessed with your work, if you're not married to the job, married to the business, like in true obsession, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard because you're allowing other thoughts to fill up your head, and really all your thoughts should be obsessing about, like, why are they in this position in the first place? Where do they want to go? Why do they want to go there? And who's there? Like, who is in that space, in their future space? What does it take to get there for them uniquely, for them generally? What are the common themes for all these people? And then go and keep, like, digging through. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their wants? What are their preferences? Right? Like, it's like, what, almost like, to if they're traveling, who are they traveling with? Right? Are they Spirit kind of people? Are they Delta kind of people? Are they find a hotel anywhere? Or are they Marriott Bonvoy members? Like, thinking about all these things, because they definitely weigh into the person they're becoming, because then you can start speaking to them more directly. When you speak to them more directly, you end up pretty much speaking, you end up saying their name. Everybody pays attention when their name is called. I just saw on social media some meme about Beyonce and her reaction, and somebody posting it, like, when you on a Zoom call and you hear your name called, but you weren't paying attention, and you're like that's how you that's how you want your clients to react when they see the post. Like, oh, hold up, you want, oh, this is for me. Like, you want that level of reaction because you didn't say their name, but you might as well say their name by the identity that you called out. And again, so, like, there's a level of obsession that I have with Instagram, because I'm just on there enough to read it in real time, to know the temperature, what's going on, to be able to reference that post. Some of you guys probably seen that. But, like, just to be able to just reference a real-time thing to make it relevant, like speaking the language of today, speaking the language of now, based off what Instagram's doing. Identifying the core traits of your person. What values, strengths, abilities does your ideal audience aspire to? So what are they trying to get to? Do they want to seem to be experts in the field, holistic healers, or community leaders? So this is more so for me. So for me, like, as I'm coaching my people, do I want my people to feel like experts? Do I want you guys to be experts, holistic healers, or community leaders? But for your audience, where do you want them to become? Like, and then I know, and Tina just jumping in, I know more about her audience. Like, she's certifying people to be instructors. So, like, now for you could be calling, like, and you're calling out your audience, like, hey, wellness professionals, are you tired where, like, are you looking for something to call your own, run your own business, be able to lead people through, increase their flexibility? This is for you. You can now become a certified Pilates instructor and now run your own classes, and then do this and do that and expand your brand. But, like, if you're not speaking to where they want to go to, they're not hearing you. And then this goes back to the 5 languages of pain. Like, you could almost use this, like, where are they feeling pain? Where are they feeling struggles mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or intellectually? Maybe it's something they don't know. Lean on that, speak on that. Maybe they feel out of purpose, which is going to be spiritually. Like, are you looking for your purpose? Are you looking for your calling? Can you just look back and see what God has always placed in your life, what the universe has always placed in your life? That's probably your calling. That's probably what you need to lean into. Maybe you look back and you realize that movement is something that's always been there for you. That healing is something that's always been there for you. Come join the Healers Collective, where I can show you how to expand your brand and really tap in and be a healer. Maybe you feel like you've been a successful woman, but like it's still part of your purpose to be a great mom. Maybe I need to lock in on this, on being present in my family's life again, versus just chasing this ladder, like climbing this ladder one rung after another. So then once you have this identity, you know exactly who you're marketing to. Question, Iris?
Yeah, sorry. The five languages of pain, it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and what's the fifth one?
Intellectual.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And intellectual. So that way you understand. So mental is going to be habits and behaviors. Physical, how the body is moving, how the body is operating. Emotional, how we interpret information. Spiritual is going to be how we connect to source. And intellectual is how we process information. Developing all those. So we're all having pain points on those five things in one or more of those spaces. And when you solve a problem, when you solve a pain point, when you get them out of pain and into their pleasure space, that is when you have a good business. If you give them something like, oh, now I know how to do this. Now I know how to set up a podcast. Now I know how to use AI. That's like, okay, yes, I feel good about this. I feel confident. Thank you. I appreciate that. Once you set up the identity, there's different ways to package your identity. You could package this into books, into free downloadable forms. I was talking to Jasmine earlier about, she was saying her and chat were creating some ebooks for her audience specifically, and I told her that's the first thing that I do. Like if I see a brand that I like, I go on their thing and I see what free downloadable programs or documents or something that they have. Like I'm currently in the space where I am creating a movement. I'm creating a movement practice where it's going to be to help people awaken their body intelligence. I like how that sounds. I love it. I was like, awaken your body intelligence. I was like, ooh, like I just like, whoa, what's my body intelligence? But I feel like, and this is quick tangent, is I feel like it's being called and placed on me and my life and my soul that people don't know how to. People don't understand their body. People don't know how to connect to their body, and people don't know how to move their body. Those three things I consistently have been leading people through, going all the way back to like middle school, like helping people just understand where muscles are, how to run, how to this, how to that, and understand how to connect to it deeper. Once I got into yoga, I really took a deep dive into this, and then going further, even how to move it. I've been doing that, but like I've been teaching movement classes for a decade now. And really I've been leading people through movement for longer than a decade. And it's like it's something that I just realized and just heavier on my heart and like, okay, I need to do this thing. So as I'm creating this, so as I'm doing this, I'm looking to learn more about the body. Like how can I learn more about the nervous system? How can I learn about how the breath affects this, and just water, blood work, and what you're eating affects like all the things, so I can really deliver this information better. So and naturally, because whatever you put out in the world, whatever you become a magnet of what you want. So whatever you're putting out, whatever you're carrying, you start to magnetize that more to you. As that's happening, I come across this page, and they're a osteopath. Manual osteopath, which is something I still low key want to do. In the States, you got to become a whole doctor. Out of the country, which I feel like I'm in Europe a lot nowadays. You could be a osteopathic practitioner, which you don't need to become a doctor for. And while you're doing that, so when you're doing that, so I see the page, so then I look at what information they have, and he has like 2 or 3 downloadable things. One was how to deregulate the nervous system, or nervous system deregulation. And I was like, oh, this is solid, like free guide. Now, naturally, they're on my radar for some. If they have a better program that I want to purchase, I'm going to be locked into them. Why? Because it was clear what they do. I think in their bio it said it's 222 here. Let me see if I could find this fast. Come on, Instagram, work on my side, please. Yes, beautiful. Okay. In their bio says manual osteopath teaching you about the human body. That's the second line. And that's like, yes, with a brain emoji. It's like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want to learn more about the human body because I want to be able to educate people about the human body. And in their bio, they have all these things, and they have guided programs in their caption, in their bio. So again, it's very clear about who they're marketing to and what they do, at least. There's no really identity here, but there's a level of like, it's clear what I'm doing. When you get clear what you're doing, then you put an identity on it. Then you could put more of a package thing, like for the Healers Collective, right? This is a package thing with a title to it, with an identity to it. You know you're in the right space because you know everybody here is a healer. Where Zabe was familiar with my other call, with the morning coffee call, which was a dope call, but there was no identity attached to it. It was just morning coffee, and it was a mindset wake-up call, but it even started based off like movement and meditation at the time, but it wasn't clear. So now somebody sees like, oh, if I just say join the Healers Collective, and then there's coaching calls in it, and there's other resources in it. So, oh, Healers Collective, that sounds like me. I'm a healer. I love to be in a collective of other healers. So packaging your products that way, right? So whether it's a community program, whether it's a course, whether it's a program, whether it's a coaching program, whether it's an online course, whether it's a free ebook, making it connect with the identity that you are offering, that you are creating. Okay. Building community around the identity, create content that speaks to their aspirations. So again, back to where do they want to go? Create content around where they want to go, around the place that they want to be. So you're speaking from where they are, but you're also speaking from where they want to go. So it could be a simple post of, for Iris, her audience is helping people not be people pleasers anymore. It could be literally a post of her walking through a garden, walking through any beautiful scenery, and just like waving her hands through the trees and just like, life after I gave up people pleasing. That's the post. Cute little music in the background, whatever. That's it. Like in the caption, man, it's been X amount of months, weeks, days, years, whatever, since I fully gave up people pleasing, and life has not been greater since I've been able to do this, accomplish this, set better boundaries, do these things, and I've realized that my life feels lighter, it feels smoother, it feels more beautiful. If you're interested in living this life, comment the word below, comment pleasing below, comment boundary below, whatever the case may be. But like, that's a visual from where they want to be. Like, man, because right now they don't feel like they could just carefree walk through a garden and smell the flowers and do that. They feel like weighted down. They feel like they've been saying yes to everybody. They've been like, well, can't do this because that's gonna offend them. I can't do that because that's gonna offend them. Or I have to do this to please them. I have to do this so it feels heavy, and they can't do what they need to do. That makes sense for everybody? Cool. Celebrate their identity, right? So creating content, but also celebrate like, hey, welcome. You are this. Congratulations on becoming this. Another client of mine, we are collectively building out a men's retreat, and we just rebranded his because it was called the Men's Reset Retreat. And I'm like, that's cool. And he's trying to sell, he has a few more slots left he's trying to close on. I'm like, okay, in order for us to do this effectively, I'm the guest speaker or partner or whatever, the featured guest in the retreat. So I told him, I'm like, this is really like a passion project for me, like helping more men. So I'm like, I'm really gonna take this on as if it's my own. So let's just rock, let's do it. I'm like, the men's reset retreat isn't selling itself. So I just went to chat like, hey, I want to create an identity around men who are fathers, they're married, they're fathers, and they run their own business, and they need a space to reset. What is a good identity for this type of man? And they gave me a whole bunch. Of the list, he chose Balance King. And I was like, yeah. Like Balance King sounds like this type of man I used to come here. So it's like the Balance King retreat, which now already is like, hey, come join join and become a Balance King. And it's like, yeah, like I do feel like a king. All these men probably already feel like a king, but they may feel out of balance because they have to work, they have to parent, they have to actually still like be a lover, they have to be a man of their own, they have to like, so it feels out of balance or out of reach. So it's like, yeah, so let me go to this retreat and become a Balance King. Let me learn about that. So then you create the identity of where they want to, you create the identity as their aspiration. And then you can also celebrate that. Like, so for our Balance Kings that are doing this, they are able to do this thing. So after the first retreat, it sells itself. To stay, now you can join the Balance King Brotherhood, and that becomes a thing. So it's like you just keep the identity, and the identity keeps spreading and becoming more and more of the brand and different renditions of the brand. And that kind of goes into the next piece of like naming your offer. So if you name your offer based off of the identity, which is the Balance King retreat, right? So it's like having the identity as a Balance King, and it's putting retreat or putting brotherhood or putting the Balance King, the guide to becoming a Balance King. Like there's something along there, those lines. You can use action words like become, transform, master. These things help. These things help really catch the eye, catch the attention of the audience. Any questions thus far?
So, naming your offer is basically a verb.
Naming the offer based off of the identity.
Action. Right, but it's about taking action based off the identity, like based off what the person is trying to obtain. Or are you saying the identity that we are holding up for ourselves?
No, the identity of the person, what they want to become. So if you're building a community, it may not have a verb on there. But so like,
It's kind of a verb.
what is it?
Building is a verb.
Building is a verb, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking? Where are you thinking about creating? And that could help better with that.
No, I like the word transform and master for, my identity around the people pleasing, mastering people pleasing, transforming from people pleasing to empowerment, things like that. I'm just like trying to identify like all this is a call to action basically, right?
It is, yeah, it is an action word. It is a verb, but it doesn't have to be. So these are things that can spike it. So my social media mastery workshop, like mastery is in there. So I could say the same course, the same 4-hour workshop could be called Master Your Social Media, which now has that verb in there. But it doesn't have to, it could be called Social Media Workshop. But if I say like, and I think it's like a social media mastery for body workers and healers, but it could be master social media as a healer. And then now that verb is in there where the offer could be become a Balance King or detox, it could be detox people pleasing. Could be the name of your program. But it doesn't have to be. It could be ex people pleasers. where there's no verb there, but it's that could be a community, or it could be like, or be like become an ex people pleaser, and that's like, and you have the ex people pleaser program. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the action word, yes, it is a verb, but it doesn't have to be there.
Right. I guess the way it like clicks for me, it's like a call to action, but it doesn't have to be actual action. It could just be like something that clicks for the audience, like, oh, okay, yes, I do need that.
Yeah. Correct. Correcto mundo. All right. Maintaining and evolving the identity. You can stay connected and feedback, so you could stay tapped in with your audience, right? So this is a way to maintain the identity, where you have an audience, you have a weekly, monthly coaching call, you have a Facebook group, you have something where you're continuously tapping in with them. So you keep reinforcing the identity through content, do community engagement and branding. Your audience will grow more confident in their role as you continually affirm and support them on their journey. So as they're going through and advancing, you just keep telling them like, hey, this is who you are. Just keep that identity. Does everybody have Zay, where are you at? I think I know everybody else's identity. Where's your identity?
In transformation. That's the best way I can put it. Like literally, even like down to this very moment.
Okay.
It's absolutely in transition.
So let's help the transition. Who are you serving?
Okay, so body worker, that thing has absolutely been shifting because people who have had like hip replacements and things are finding me, and they're becoming more consistent, which is great. But now I'm also starting to see a surge of people who just want to do well by their body, like within the area of Tuscaloosa, which is great as well too. But now I've had an open door to the HBCU dance community, which I think this is where we left off. Like we needed to talk about this. Now I will be teaching a stretch and strength conditioning course for HBCU dance cohort, which has prompted me to go ahead and create my a stretch therapy certification course for dance directors and coaches to help, you know, I've identified what for the HBCU dance culture, for the dancer, what muscle groups and things really need to be tapped into because of the culture of movement and how high impact it is. And we're not taking care of our bodies as innovative as we should. So I've identified and figured out how to like shape that course or whatever. So that's a great thing. So I've been looking to lean more into that, but all these other things keep popping up as well too. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna interrupt you because I know you. We go way back.
super back. Yeah.
So for reference, everybody else can understand. I was Zavis came to me to 3 live in-person workshops. His second one, he ended up leading a choreography for everybody in the house. Like Sierra was cooking or something. My other housemate that was renting the room from us, she was just existing, and I had somebody come and show up to be a body. And it turned out that everybody was a form of dancer in the house, and he ended up leading a whole choreographed situation. Saying that to say, dancers are your people. You can't escape them.
Right.
Like just like movers and body workers are my people. Back when I thought I was gonna leave this business, you were like, come on back. I need to learn some more.
No, for
and now
sure.
I'm here still doing the thing. So dancers are your people.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's ever been a chapter of this past 4 year tenure of us and working and operating with each other where dancers were not the thing.
Yeah.
So everything else that's there, that's cool, but your main identity should be dancers. And for
Yes.
anybody else listening, the part of this is like God has handwritten something on your soul
Hmm.
that you are supposed to do. Like you're supposed to do this thing for these people. And you have to just pay attention and listen and pay attention to, like, just look back and be like, what's been the consistent thing? What's never leaving my life?
Hmm.
Like, I don't think you could actually imagine life without dancing and operating with dancers.
Hmm.
Like, take pay out the window. What do you actually want to do? You want to be around moving. You want to be around dancers.
Hmm.
So now once that's clear, it's like, okay, cool, dancers. Now I can help dancers. I could create then your identity is like, I want to help dancers become more educated around the body and around movement.
Hmm.
Now that breaks down to different levels. Like you could be teaching kid dancers on how to really tap into their body. Parents spend a lot of money on their kids,
Hmm.
especially when they think like, oh, my kid's gonna be the next da 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 da. Great, cool. Position yourself in a space where like, yes, this dancer is great, but they're not breaking down the anatomy of what's happening. They're not breaking down the mobility of what needs to be going on. That you could be doing that. Step up is then when you actually still coaching dancers, still work with HBCU dancers, the ones that feel like are not getting the attention that they need to get, or maybe not getting the science that they need to get.
Hmm.
Right. So you stay in a lane that's very nerdy, that you like enjoy being, into a space that's more artsy, right? So it's
Hmm.
not as nerdy, but it's like, let me help you become a better mover and a better dancer because you actually know the science behind what you're doing versus just moving your body.
Right.
Like most people, but dancers, hey, how many moves does the hip have? And they can move their hip better than anybody else, but they don't know how many moves the hip has.
Hmm.
That's because Dave hasn't taught them yet.
True.
So this could be a course, this could be a free downloadable guide, this could be an in-person program, this could be an online, whatever the case may be. But you could show up and show out in this era. But like dancers are your audience. So then creating the identity, multiple identities for the youth, for the college student, for the professional dancer, and if you're still doing body workers for dancers as just because you want to do it, then that
Hmm.
becomes like, cool, I'm helping where dancers recover and get back into whatever, or just maintain their body from just being wrecked. I remember I
Hmm.
worked on a dancer. She worked on a ship during like cruises.
Hmm.
And she was like, my body is wrecked. We're dancing on that whatever steel floor and it's terrible. It's every day. It's like, so she was explaining to me, I was like, wow, introduced me to a whole new industry. I'm like, wow, I could be on a ship working on that on all y'all. Like, but there's just lanes of people who need to maintain their body because they love
Hmm.
dance. That makes sense. Does that help everybody? Like value delivery? Good.
I've also never
Um,
even thought about working on a ship in that capacity because from our dance program at the University of Alabama, we're taught to be like a holistic dancer already anyway, of
mhm.
being able to market yourself and all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, like they also taught go and dance on the cruise ship, make your money, sell your car, stack your money, and then get out of debt. Like, do a few tours with them and then you're good for like 3 or 4 years. But to be able to work on the bodies on the ship is another thing I never even considered.
And
I think
then that's your target, but then there's still more bodies on the ship.
several more. Yeah.
Yeah, hundreds. Like if you just work with the staff, you probably have like 100, but like all the guests, and it's like, oh yeah, this is again, this it's there now that it will be entering a chapter where you are working a lot and not, you're exchanging your time for money, not your mind for money, where
Yeah.
you could be setting up like, and maybe you do that while you already have pre-set up some online courses,
Hmm.
some yeah, a lot of online courses and a lot of programs people could then self-pace and do them themselves.
Hmm.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay. So we have anybody else questions about identity and clarifying? No. Any questions about anything in the space of expanding your brand? No? Good. Trying to look at my notes. I know I have
I
some.
do. I I haven't been on social media for real for like the past month, but I'm hopping back in slowly, implementing what God has actually been showing me. But anyhow, I saw you had this post pop up yesterday that I marked for me to go back and look at. Of it popped up for me yesterday at least, so you probably didn't post it yesterday. Um, of not to do this, not to do
For yoga?
yeah. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was on last call. Um yeah, so most people will go into offering corporate yoga because they think like they think there's corporate wellness and then they could go in and teach yoga to the staff, right? It's easy.
Mhm.
You go to the company and then you have the company pay you to teach yoga class there. Maybe they have a little gym facility, whatever. But most CEOs don't want to pay you to have their people leave the desk and just stretch. In their mind, like, okay, you want to go and just stretch. What is that doing for my business? So it may be more of a one-off thing, like, okay, cool, let me do a employee appreciation for the month, for 1 month of the year, and it becomes a quick, simple thing. And I've been a massage therapist showing up in corporate spaces, and it's not a big program. They come and they get their little 5 minutes, beat on their back, and they go back to their desk, and then they wait till next year. it's not that thing. But if you pitch to the company like, hey, I'm looking to help your staff, your employees become more intuitive thinkers, to become more empowered leaders, to become more resilient employees, and you're doing that through a deconstructed yoga, a deconstructed wellness program. So instead of just saying yoga, what are the elements of yoga that make you more resilient? What are the elements of breath work, of um of being grounded? What are the elements of just living through the yamas and the niyamas? Like how can you take those things, like real actual full 8 limbs of yoga, deconstruct them, and create it as a workshop? And now when people are leaving, when you pitch that to the company, it's like they're going to become more resilient leaders because I'm going to go through this to lead to this. I'm going to go through a workshop of like self-discovery. So that way they're really locking in on what they can really do here in this company. Like how could they find the gray space? How could they close the gaps within the business? How could they think outside of their simple positions, think outside of just themselves? Like those ideas, those tools, those practices will make a better pitch to the company, and the company could see how that yields more money, yields more return. So they could see that and like, oh, this is gonna make us $10,000 more a month. I could give you $5,000 for this month. We have a budget for 7, whatever. I could do that. But am I giving you $5,000 for yoga, for you to stretch? Like again, like unless the most of the people high up in the company, they're not thinking like a wellness expert thinks. They're not prioritized. We all here, we're healers. We understand like drinking juices versus drinking coffee is better. We understand drinking more water in the day is better than drinking alcohol. We understand like getting more sunlight, like stretching daily throughout the day is better than being sedentary. We all know that. The corporate space and the person high up, those high achievers, probably not. They think like, cool, I'm gonna go get my 5 a.m. workout in, and then I'm gonna work like a dog from 6 to 8, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's no level of like balance, or their rhythm is just very much like work, which is still like just trying to like work through their stress, barely, if that, maybe even producing more stress, and then now sit at a job and work and then take meetings and this and that, versus like how can they take like pause, reflect, journal, who is like remembering who you are, like remembering the things that you learned from your past job, remembering that like for all of us right in this moment, like what can we remember about past experiences that we've learned that we're like, oh, I do remember doing that. Like I do have that level of mastery that I can now apply to current self. Like if we all go back to 22 when we learned something at 22 years old and like, can we recover that back into now and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna take that what I learned and apply it here. Like I remember learning how to de-escalate irate customers working for Time Warner Cable when I was on the phones. Not the worst year of my life, but the worst job year of my life. But there's a skill set I learned how to de-escalate people, and now I don't deal with irate anybody. But if I did, I now know how to de-escalate them. And sometimes it'll be Instagram comments or whatever, or just something. And I don't know my future yet, but I may have something that becomes irate, as people feel displeased, uncomfortable. And now I tap into something I've done before that's not in my regular life, and I could apply that. Yeah. Other questions? Good.
In terms of myself for the people pleasing stuff, like obviously I want to come off as relatable and give my audience a reason to trust and follow me, because it's like, okay, she's experienced these things, so obviously she knows what she's talking about. But so when I'm like making my own notes over here about like the 5 pain bodies, and where I can say, okay, these are the problems mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So would you say like sharing stories about the self in terms of that would help, and like how to counter that so that it's not too much about like these are my experiences, because I want to share that I have worked through those things, or I'm actively working through those things, and these are the reasons why I'm worth, tapping in with when it comes to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, my question is the 5 pain bodies, like that's how I want to make it relatable by sharing my own story, but also how can I counter that by not making it about myself all the time? Like more general and talking about them, like something
Yeah.
that I experienced, but being able to connect with them, like a mother. I don't know what being a mother is like, and like how people pleasing can affect a mother per se.
Yeah. Part of that is living more life, so you have more stories to tell. Based, like you can tell other people's stories.
Oh, so
You
tell stories.
could
Okay.
tell the story of your mother. You can tell the story of, you know what I mean? So it's like people attach to stories because they naturally put themselves in the story. So then like, and we could go on this in the next meeting, because it's a bigger thing, but getting into storytelling and getting into like hooks. So like you get them into like, you can open a story loop with the right hook.
Mm.
So a story loop becomes a space where you you start to tell the story and you want to know how it finishes. So it's like, so yesterday I got on a call and I got on a consultation. And this woman was really interested in signing up for this program, and I really needed her to sign up because I'm just in a space where I'm like, man, I'm really calling in more money. And then there's a level of like, okay, so what happens next? Like you're interested in know, like, did you sign them up? Did you, we had a great call and this and this. And it's like the loop is open. So now the attention is hooked in. And there's a level of like, okay, well, and there's that attention wise, right? So that's that. But when you're telling a story, look at how you can find the principle and the lesson within each story. Because the principle applies to all people. Like the principle of as above, so below. The principle of be fruitful. The principle of like we produce on the outside based on the inside. So like as you're telling a story, use the principle of the things, and then allow that principle for them to be like, oh yeah, because principles are they are for all humans. They're for like life. They're for just nature. Like just look at nature and how nature operates is usually how life operates, and there's usually a principle around that.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you for that, because the other day I was on Instagram and I was watching a guy talking to the camera about if you want to become somebody, you have to abandon all of you and become that new person. Like you can't bring your old self into the future you. And so he starts to conceptualize it through stories. He's not talking about himself at all. He's very general. And then he ends it with, oh, I can go off and off about this. Don't even get me started on free will. That's a whole nother topic. So I was like, oh, okay. So like he just shared some gems and then he threw free will in there. And I was like, man, I'm actually curious to know what he has to say about free will now.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the time to go investigate, but I was like, that was smart. Like what he did there, that little ending.
He opened another loop, so it's like, ooh, I want to watch the next video.
Right. So I was like, that's pretty clever. Yeah. So the way you just explained it made me think about that. Like, okay, that's kind of how it works, like conceptualizing that way.
But telling your own story also allows people to trust you specifically more, and that is there's power in that. So it doesn't always have to be you.
Which I would love to do, and I realized through my latest vulnerability post that it really does get people, but I don't want to get stuck in my own story, and then people be like, she's just talking about her stories. Like, where's the solutions?
That's in your head.
Yeah, maybe.
Because in your story, there is
this part. I'm thinking
there is a solution in your head. There is a solution in your story. Like there's the principle. That's it. So it's like, I mean, I went through this and I was going through this and now I'm learning this. That's all they need. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. You're learning this. That's beautiful. Or I've learned this. Some people make a lot of money telling the same story about themselves.
Word.
So, journal, reflect on it, pray about it. If it's like, hey, I'm supposed to be telling my story, then keep telling your story. But good question. Really great question. Any final questions, final remarks? If not, I will leave you guys with a quote that I think I mentioned already. I think I mentioned it last week. Maybe not. But don't make it happen. Make it welcome. And it's been a thing that I've loved. Like I heard it for the first time and I fell in love, and I've been just saying it, and my daily journaling has been like, I am welcoming, and it's naming what I'm welcoming. Like I am welcoming this, I am welcoming this, I'm welcoming this. And like literally when I mentioned, like I wrote down like I'm welcoming new clients, I'm welcoming the space to work with new clients. And literally yesterday, while I was closing, Tiana signed up. Yeah.
Spoke yesterday. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful.
excited for her and both of you.
Good. So while I'm on the call with her, one of my old clients is like, "Hey, how do I keep you on a retainer?" And I was like, "Yes, I am welcoming more clients working with me, more abundance flowing in. Like, allow me to. I'm welcoming. I think I wrote it down today. Um, I'm welcoming into my life more space to do the work that I love and that I am called to do, which is helping healers expand their brand and helping humans connect deeper to their bodies. And it's like writing that down, welcoming that in versus like, okay, I got to go make this happen. You just welcome in the space. So I share with you, don't go out and try to like make it happen, but simply make it welcome. I love you guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. This was great. Sorry I wasn't super active. My phone was kind of out of reach, so I couldn't unmute. But this was great as usual. A lot of gems that I picked up on. Just, of course, always listening to where other people's paths are and how they can be intertwined into my path. That's what I love about this call. Of course, our time together is valuable, but it's really just my thoughts and you bouncing off of that. But when you can hear where other people are and see the similarities and how you can pick up little gems from their stories and their paths is always super great. So thank you for
Yes,
sharing, from the both of you for sharing.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
This was an amazing call. I got so many great notes.
Yes. Because I did through chat, it gave me like information about how you can really use like LinkedIn even to share like posts and stories and articles. And for me, trying to attract high achieving women, you know, I felt like that's a good platform to learn and tap into.
Mhm.
So, an article that kind of came to my mind as it pertains to like corporate wellness was when being overwhelmed becomes the office culture, and how to use mindfulness to boost morale and increase employee retention,
Mhm.
because how many companies are losing good employees simply because they're burnt out, and everybody in the office is burnt out, but that's just the norm.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I can offer
Yeah.
something to that,
Go ahead.
LinkedIn is an amazing place for that. I'm working with a B2B company right now on expanding their brand, and we've decided to let go of all other social media to only be on LinkedIn for that specific reason of like establishing their voice in the business market and staying there since they're B2B, because that's where all of the decision makers, all the influencers of decision makers, all the high profile people within companies, they're all on LinkedIn. They're not scrolling on Facebook and Instagram trying to figure out what we're talking about. They want to hear exactly what you're talking about on LinkedIn. So that's a
Yeah.
perfect place. And then another piece is corporately, a space that is really not being tapped into is higher education as a corporate space. Within the HBCU market, women presidents that have been presidents of HBCUs recently have been dying a lot due to the level of stress, and just like the pressures of leading. Specifically, I think it was last year, maybe there were like 3 or 4 women presidents that were all black, who passed away because of the levels of the pressures and things. And the demographic and the market right now within HBCU culture is really shallow and very low. So this is a great time to tap into something like where you are. It's perfect for targeting them for sure.
Well, thank you so much for that insight. I haven't really tapped into LinkedIn for my own personal reasons, so it's all uncharted waters. But with the help of chat and YouTube, I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely appreciate the insight, because I think where I really want to tap into is like women owned and women led businesses as well. Where you can walk into an office and it may just be a small realtor office with 5, 6 women present, but those are the ones who kind of need it the most, because when you have 5 people keeping a business going, they're doing everything.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that I think is going to be a strategy for me to tap into that woman that I want to attract and want to work with, is that high achieving, doesn't know when to sit down, doesn't know when to stop, doesn't know when to, allow themselves free time.
Love it.
And like you said, they're on LinkedIn because they don't have the free time. They're not on social media.
Yep.
So thank you again for sharing, everyone. This was great. And I will talk and connect soon.
Yes. Again, I switched over to Substack, so if you're in there, just take a look over there. There's an app. I try to post more things in there. There's a whole book in there now. You'll see this whole playback in there. So there's just a lot more options in Substack.
Okay.
Love you guys, and I will see you all in Substack or see you next week.
Okay.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace and blessings, brother.